Well, we have some breaking news out of London. Theresa May has given her 2 weeks' notice, announcing that she will be stepping down from her role as Prime Minister on June 7th. And that leaves the future of Brexit uncertain. Let's take a listen.
I have done everything I can to convince MPs to back that deal. Sadly, I have not been able to do so. I tried 3 times. I believe it was right to persevere, even when the odds against success seemed high. But it is now clear to me that it is in the best interests of the country for a new Prime Minister to lead that effort. So I am today announcing that I will resign as leader of the Conservative and Unionist Party on Friday the 7th of June, so that a successor can be chosen.
So joining me now to break this all down from London is CBS News correspondent Imtiaz Tyab. You know, Imtiaz, we played just a portion of Theresa May's speech there, not the very end, where it really looked like the Prime Minister was about to get quite emotional before she turned around and walked back inside the building. But there you have it. She's leaving on June 7th. What does that mean for Parliament? What does that mean for the future of the Brexit deal?
Anne-Marie, good morning. Well, extraordinary scenes here at 10 Downing Street, as you rightly point out. The Prime Minister, Theresa May, coming out here, standing at a podium, and at the very end of this speech that she gave, a speech in which she sort of appealed for compromise, she appealed for the country to come together, breaking down in tears, saying that being Prime Minister was the honor of her life. But to answer your question, what happens next? What does this mean for Parliament? Well, Parliament will carry on as normal, but we do know that on the 7th of June, Theresa May will stop being Prime Minister, or rather she will become the caretaker Prime Minister, no longer the leader of the Conservative Party. But Brexit, what does it mean for Brexit? In short, that's anyone's guess. As we've seen over the last 3 years since Britain voted to leave the European Union, that how to remove itself from this membership, how to remove itself from the European Union has proven to be extremely elusive, extremely difficult. And this will now go to the next leader of the Conservative Party who will become Prime Minister to try to figure this out.
You can't help but to think that Theresa May was in a really, really difficult position when she took on this job and did not have parliamentary support, really. But she brought a Brexit deal to Parliament 3 times. She pointed out she could not get it passed any of those times. Did she do enough? You know, she highlighted in her speech this idea of the importance of compromise, but some have sort of suggested that compromise is not really a hallmark of her tenure as Prime Minister until maybe the very end, and it might have been too little too late.
Indeed, and really it depends who you ask. If you have supporters of Theresa May, if you ask them, they say she did everything she could. She worked day and night trying to make this happen. And of course, you'll have her critics who are saying, no, she didn't do enough, and she wouldn't listen to people, and she wouldn't compromise. And it really wasn't until the very end that she decided to reach out to opposition parties to try to get this deal through. The short answer is she just wasn't able to do it. She just wasn't able to deliver Brexit, and she lost support from within her party. She lost support not only from her backbenchers, but also from her cabinet. And really, that was the undoing of this Prime Minister. And remember, this is a Prime Minister who took her Brexit deal to members of Parliament. They voted on it and voted down those deals at historic levels. I mean, it really was this extraordinary scenes that we would see with these votes again and again that she would just lose. And yet she soldiers on. She carried on. But again, as we've been saying, she tried to table this latest deal, this latest agreement, one which would see members of Parliament vote on whether or not they would have another referendum on whether the UK would stay or leave the EU. That just seemed to be something they just didn't want to do. They weren't going to support that, and it seemed like she lost that support. And there we have it. She's resigning.
So 2 weeks' notice, like anyone else who leaves a job. June 7th, she's going to be out. What happens between now and then?
Well, interestingly enough, she's going to be hosting President Donald Trump. He's coming here for a state visit. He was, of course, invited by Theresa May shortly after he was elected. She was one of the first world leaders to invite Mr. Trump to a state visit. That will still carry on. She will continue to be Prime Minister, but on the 7th of June, she will step down as leader of the Conservative Party. She then becomes a caretaker Prime Minister, but that's really when we're going to see what's going to happen next, just who's going to take take over this job. And we have to remember, Brexit has already seen the backs of two prime ministers, not just Theresa May, but also David Cameron. Remember, David Cameron, the prime minister before her, who called for this referendum, who urged voters to say, you know what, we need to be in the EU, but he ultimately lost that. He resigned shortly after that result, and now we have another prime minister quitting as well. Brexit, it has proven time and time again to be extraordinarily difficult. It will now be up to the next leader to try to put a path forward, try to figure this out, but who that leader will be at this stage, it's anyone's guess.
Yeah, I can't imagine who's going to want this job considering the uphill battle that they have and just a few months to get it done, but I'm sure there will be many people throwing their names into the hat, if I could get that metaphor down pat. Imtiaz, thank you so much. So there you have it. We learned this morning that Prime Minister Theresa May will be stepping down in 2 weeks. She'll leave her post as Prime Minister of the UK on June 7th. And this all comes as a result of her failure to pass a Brexit deal. She brought 3 different deals to Parliament to get them to vote and was unable to be successful at all. And so now we look forward to the UK first choosing a new leader. And then the deadline to remove the United Kingdom from Brexit, from Europe rather, is October 31st. So between now and then, they have to find a new leader, hammer out some sort of deal, and then hopefully exit the European Union without a hard exit, which is sort of everyone's fear. So we're going to continue to cover this throughout the morning.